Another day, another chance, another way, another dance. Today I'll be discussing to you all about, about its flashes and so on and so forth. So it'll be like lesson 25, 24, and I'll pretty much be going over adding user authentication. So in lesson 23, you learn about manual hashing of passwords, right? Just the overall manual hashing of like passwords, right? At the importance of securing user data. In this lesson, you explore some popular and useful tools that make the hashing process less messy. You modify your hashing methods to use the passport local mongoose package, which uses passport and mongoose together to perform hashing for you behind the scenes. Next, you learn how to use passport.js to authenticate a user account on your application. This process involves session cookies, similar to the way the Flash messages use them. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a sign up and login form that permits only true users of your application to have access. This lesson covers using the passport package to authenticate users throughout your application. Implementing the Passport local Mongoose plugin on your user model, creating authentication actions before you user login. So you're pretty much implementing the Passport JS. So that's what he had. That's what's happening here. So as you can see, you got your main, right? And as you scroll through main, you got your passport set up, right? So you got session flash, and then you got your passport middleware. And then you got your passport set up here, right? So you pretty much use different methods to create and log in user accounts, ranging from basic login with username and password to login with third-party services such as Facebook. These login methods are called strategies, and the strategy you'll use for your recipe application is local strategy because you aren't using external services. These strategies check whether incoming data is authentic by managing hashing and comparison of passports and data relating to the user's login state. For more information about the Passport.js strategies, visit passportjs.org. So as you can see, you got requiring and initializing passport main.js, right? So you got passport your variable, your permanent variable is called passport, and it requires your passport and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? And then right, so your variable, and then let's see here. Got your router use passport initialized and router use passport session. So this pretty much requires and initializes the passport, right? So as you can see, you got initialized in session, and then you can then you got setting up passport serializing in main.js. So you got your const user, right? Const user, models user. Then you got your passport use that uses create strategy. Passport serial user. Then passport deserialize user deserialize. So what this does is it takes our variable passport and assigns the values, right? Like serial user, deserialized user, right? So you just make sure that your user model is made available in main.js before you continue to connect it with passport. Normally, you need to set up some configuration times, right, to create a login strategy for module. But yeah, but because you're using the default local strategy, you only need to tell passport to use the strategy created for the user module. The next two lines, password, tell password serialize and deserialize users through the user module. These lines direct the process of encryption and decrypting user data stored in sessions. So this password serializes and deserializes, right? Right, to pass into a session. The session stores the serialized data, condensed form of user information, sent back to the server to verify the user as the last one logged in from the client. Deserialize and extracts the user data from condensed version so you can verify the user's information. Yeah, the last step before building authentication action to log users into your application is connect the user model to the passport local mongoose model. Add Khan's passport local, right, to it to connect your user, right, to the passport local mongoose module. You pretty much add this variable to the top of user.js, which is where you'll add a passport plugin to the user schema. So let's go over the main.js first. So you got use strict, which actually takes all your incorrect syntax, all your invalid syntax, and it pretty much sifts it out. Same way in a farm, how you sift out the bad crops from the good crops. Then you got your variables, for express, method override, mongoose, so on and so forth. Then connect flash. Ugh. Then you got controllers. So what this variable does is it requires the paths that you have in your app, right? Which like controllers requires these paths, and it pretty much applies them, to our main.js file, right? So you got your paths there, right? And then you got const user equals require models user. Then Mongo connect MongoDB 127.0.0. That right? So const express session, cookie parser. Then const connect flash equals require connect flash. Then const parse port require parse port, right? Then so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So yeah. Then that, and then const subscribers controllers. So you're importing the paths, right? Const user equals require, Microsoft connects MongoDB um 127.0.0.1, right, to 7017 recipe underscore DB. Then console log successfully connected to the MongoDB. Catch error equals to or greater than console error. App that set port process environment port or 3000. App that set view engine, right, comma EJS, right, so browser that use express that static public router use. So these are the middleware, the routes that you use in having your middleware. So use layouts, router that use express that URL encoded, extended, colon false, router that use express that JSON, then router that use method override, underscore method methods, right, post and get, and then session and flash router that use cookie parser, secret underscore passcode, then router that use express session. You know what I mean? So yeah, so this is pretty much a session flash. This is pretty much sets our sessions and our flash. So the flash is it's pretty much the semi-permanent stuff that we get every time a a relationship between the user and the app gets established. So that's what happens. You know what I mean? Right, so passport setup, right? So passport serial user, right? The serialized user, so on and so forth. Then you can set locals for templates. So you got your parameters, right? Then you got your arguments. So this is pretty much breaks everything down here. So you got strict undefined, then length three, right? Meaning it's got different within the parameter we got different we got three different parameters. The parameter for user flashed and authenticated. Then you've got request logging, routes, right? Then you got users, right? Right. Then you got router that get users login. Then users controller login, subscribers router dot get subscribers, subscribers controller, index subscribers controller, index view, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Router that get uses new route users controller, router that get users ID edit, and then router that put users ID update, so on and so forth. That's pretty much what we have. So and with the rest of the code, router so subscribers the routes for subscribers, courses, areas, mounts routers, then our server, start server, and then so as you can see here for users controllers, right? What we have here is our create, let you new user our create, then our if statement of if, our parameters that skip, then you're gonna return next. Then you're gonna let the let variable new user gonna equal to new user, get user parameters request body. Then you if else statement for user register. So this is pretty much an if else statement for our password. So if it was a success, in regards to like our password, then you gotta have a flash which gonna reads out success, create successfully, or else fail to create user error, so on and so forth. And then what else we have is our user.js. Right, our user.js. So you got the if else statement, right? So user schema, right? User schema. So if statement, if not this subscriber count, then try an if statement, right? For if this that subscriber count, right? If it's not this that subscriber count, then try con subscriber or wait a subscriber that find one. So this is gonna like try and find like our emails, right? And then our next catch error, got the log error connecting subscriber, next error, or else next. So this is what happens if we're not able to, if the app's unable to connect our user to the subscriber, then else next. So that's what we have there. And then yeah, all that's left is to pretty much go over our, go over our app. It goes my. Oh, come on now. Right, so log in, and then we type in test user our passcode. Right, so you got that. So as you can see, use authentication. This authenticates our passwords. So our passwords get like authenticated, like the authentication, right? So as you can see here, logged in as test user, right? So password authentication. So it pretty much authenticates our password, right? The password that I used was authenticated. authenticating users and login, authenticate passport, authenticate local field redirect users field to login, then logged in. So as you can see, it says logged in as test user. Right, so passwords authenticate. So as you can see, login, then log out, logged out. Then if statement for if password errors that push email is required. If you don't get a password errors that push password is required. If zip code string length is not equal to 5, error push zip code must be 5 digits. So this is an if statement, a verification or validation if statement that pretty much verifies if you actually meet the requirements of everything that you've got. So you got if logged in as href, right, and so on and so forth. So logged in as test user, then you press logged out. Then as you can see, it just says logged out. Right. Ah, come on now, come on. And then logged in as test user. So yeah, it's just password authentication. And then let's go to our users table, right? Our users table. So you go on to our users table and then let's do users. Then users that new. So password Jada, oop, Jada rocks. Jada Matele. Right, then you got save and then come on, I forget about that. Jada Matele created successfully, as you can see the flash, from our last chapter. And then you got Jada Matele at gmail.com, the zip code, edit and delete. So you got edit, right, password. So the reason why you don't see passwords is because it's already been encrypted. Right, there's an authentication code that we set in our user control that authenticates our password without having authenticate password, right? Without having to like show it. So it's authenticated already. So then my zip code and then so on and so forth, and then so as you can see here, the correct formatting for my password, my zip code. But if I had to do just 4 numbers only, 1000, right? Then please fill out this field, as you can see. So as you can see, this here, if you don't have an email, then you're gonna have to push an arrow which says email is required, right? So that's what he has to push out. Then update, then view all the users, so on and so forth. Right, then view all the users, and then you can do John Wexler, delete, delete this record. Well, that's another topic for another video. So yeah, let's skip that one out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I thank you very much for your time. Take care, God bless, and see you next time. Thank you.